The town of Red Harvest was dying. For 6 long months, not a single drop of rain had touched the dry earth. The sun burned hotter every day. The river dried up, the crops withered, and even the cattle began to fall over from thirst. People prayed. Every Sunday, the preacher stood outside with arms raised, begging for rain. But the sky remained clear and cruel. One evening, just before sunset, a man rode into town. No one saw where he came from. One moment, the road was empty. The next, he was there, riding a tired old mule. He wore a long black coat and a wide hat that covered most of his face. He didn't speak to anyone. He didn't ask for water or food. He simply tied his mule near the small church, walked to the empty field behind it, and began digging. With no tools, just his hands. People watched from their porches. Some laughed. Others said he was crazy, cooked by the sun, who digs into dry dirt with bare hands. But the man didn't stop. He kept digging as the sun went down and the stars came out. And then, water. Cold, clear water burst from the ground. By morning, there was a full well behind. The church, deep, clean, and overflowing. The townsfolk rushed to it. They filled buckets, washed their faces, and drank as much as they could. For the first time in months, people smiled. The preacher called it a miracle, said God had sent the man to save them. When they asked the stranger where he came from, he only said, "Not far, but not near enough." That night, they offered him food, money, a bed in the inn. But he refused everything and slept beside the well with one eye open. By morning, he was gone. All he left behind were strange footprints, wet and red, leading back into the desert. The water saved the town. In the next few weeks, everything changed. The crops started growing again. People looked healthier. Children laughed in the streets. The town began to live again. But then, slowly something changed. The water began to taste different. At first, it was just a bitter flavor, like metal. People thought it was the buckets, or maybe just dirt in the wind. Then, Miss Hawthorne, an old woman who had lived in Red Harvest for over 70 years, began coughing up something thick and black. Her lips cracked and bled, and her fingernails turned red. Soon others got sick. The water from the well turned darker. One day, a boy drew up a bucket and screamed. The water inside wasn't just dark, it was red. Thick, slow red like blood. The preacher said it was only rust. Said God was testing them. So the people kept drinking, because they were still afraid of the thirst. And fear tastes better than dying. But it didn't stop. The red water continued to rise, bucket after bucket. Some people claimed they heard voices from the well, whispering their names in the night, calling softly from deep below. "Sarah, Jacob, come down." The voices only spoke after midnight, when the wind was still. At first, no one believed it. But then a child woke one night and stood beside the well for hours, staring into the red water. When her mother found her, the girl said, "He's waiting for me." A week later, that same girl vanished. Her small footprints led to the well. No signs of a struggle. No note. Just her doll, floating on the surface. Others began to act strange too. Some went silent for days. Others talked to things that weren't there. One man tried to climb into the well, but was pulled back just in time. The preacher stopped preaching. He sat alone by the pulpit, mumbling to himself. By the end of the month, 5 more people were gone. Every one of them last seen near the well. The town doctor tested the water and found nothing. But no one believed him anymore. Something was wrong. Everyone could feel it. Then one night, a man named Jonas, a quiet farmer with a sick wife, walked into the town square holding a bucket. He shouted, "It told me what it wants." People gathered. They begged him to explain. Jonas pointed to the red water in the bucket. "It doesn't want us," he said. "It wants one, a gift." They didn't understand. So Jonas said the words again, "One in exchange for the rest." And then he looked straight at his wife. Jonas' wife, Miriam, stood behind the crowd. Thin, pale, coughing. She didn't seem surprised. She didn't cry, didn't speak. She just looked at Jonas with tired eyes and nodded once. No one stopped them. No one knew what to say. Jonas took her hand and walked with her to the well. as if they were heading to a quiet place for prayer. The town watched, frozen in silence. He whispered something to her, soft, broken. Then he helped her climb up onto the stone edge. She looked down. The red water rippled, as if it knew she had come. And then she let go. The splash was soft, almost gentle. There was no scream. No struggle. Just silence. And then the water turned clear. The very next morning, the sky broke open. Rain fell like it hadn't in years. Heavy, clean, full. The river returned. The soil drank deep. Trees that had bent and brown began to lift again. Red harvest bloomed like a flower after fire. But no one smiled. Not really. Miriam was gone, and something had taken her. No one spoke of it. No one dared. The people drank the water again, but carefully, slowly. The well stayed clear for a time. Weeks passed, then months. People went back to work. Crops grew. Children played again. But late at night, when the wind blew a certain way, some said they still heard whispers rising from the deep. Faint, cold, asking for more. Then, one day, the preacher vanished. He left behind his Bible, still open, and a note written in trembling hands. The water remembers. Soon after, the town changed again. A baby was born with black eyes. A cow gave birth to a calf with no mouth. A traveler passed through and said the air around Red Harvest felt heavy, like something unseen was pressing down on his chest. And once again, the taste of the water changed. Just slightly, but enough. People whispered to each other in secret, asked the same question over and over again. Well, how they made a deal with? Was it God or something else? And how many more gifts would ask for? Jonas, now older and grayer, sat beside the well each night, watching, listening. He never spoke to anyone anymore, just stared at the rippling surface as if waiting for it to speak back. And some nights, he would whisper into the well, "You got her." That should have been enough. But the well never answered, until the night it cried again. Blood rising slow, thick. The whispers returned, stronger now. Not just names, but promises, threats. And then one by one, people began dreaming of it. The well, calling to them, smiling. Some woke with red marks on their hands, as if they had pulled something up in their sleep. Others woke soaked, their beds wet, not with sweat, but with water. Red water. It began again. One child vanished, then a woman, then the mayor himself. No tras, no cries, only that wet red path leading to the well. The townsfolk gathered. They demanded answers from Jonas. But he only said one thing. You can't bargain with the thirst. You can only delay it. Panic spread. Families left. Some tried to fill the well with stones, wood, anything they could find. But the well never stayed buried. By morning, it was open again, and always full. Now, Red Harvest is a name people don't say too loud. The town still sits on the map, but no one lives there anymore. Except maybe Jonas, if he's even still alive. Some say if you ride out there, you can still hear the wind crying at night. And if you stop to drink from the well, it will taste sweet at first. But the deeper you draw from it, the darker it becomes. And if you listen closely enough, you'll hear it whisper too. Not just your name, but the name of the one you love most. Because the well never forgets, and it's always thirsty. Years passed, and Red Harvest became a ghost town. The buildings still stood, weathered, sun-bleached, and empty. Doors creaked in the wind. Curtains swayed in broken windows. The schoolhouse bell still hung, though it hadn't rung in decades. Only the well remained untouched. No dust covered its stone. No vines grew over it, and no animal, not even crows, ever perched near it. Sometimes, travelers came by accident. Lost riders, mailmen, wanderers. They always left something behind. Sometimes a saddlebag, sometimes a tooth, and sometimes a memory. One man returned weeks later, eyes wide and wild, whispering over and over, "I saw her, she was down there," smiling. No one believed him. But he wouldn't stop screaming until they locked him away. The story spread quietly like smoke. They reached nearby towns, saloons, church pews. Some laughed them off. Others listened too closely. One night, A man came to the old town with a rope, a bucket, and a question. If the well can take, can it give? He climbed down himself. No one ever saw him again. But that same week, a woman in a distant county claimed she heard her dead son calling her from the sink. She said the water smelled like the desert, like dust and regret. Now, they say if you ever pass near Red Harvest, you'll feel it, not just as a place on the map, but as a weight in your heart. The silence there speaks louder than words, and the air feels thick with memory. Even from miles away, something about it lingers, like unfinished business, like questions never answered. Because some places don't just vanish. They wait, they watch, and they remind us that not every gift is a blessing, and not every thirst is meant to be satisfied. If you gained something from this video, drop a comment below. Like and subscribe.